Hello, everyone. My name is Dennis Mansell. I'm the chair of the Princeton chapter of ACM. And our talk today on MongoDB is going to be given by Mike Redlich. I'm going to summarize a few of the things that didn't quite make it onto the recording and then turn it over to Mike. Mike is a Java expert. He's a Java news editor for the InfoQ organization. He's a development advocate and tech writer for Payara today. He used to work for, before he retired, he worked for ExxonMobil Labs. But he's involved in the Java Users Group and a bunch of things having to do with the Jakarta environment. He's also the author of the recently appeared Helidon Revealed. In this talk, Mike's going to go over what is MongoDB, what is NoSQL, how to get started with MongoDB, some of the basic create, replace, update, and delete operations. We have live demos, and we'll list some MongoDB resources. So what's MongoDB? It's an open source document database. And as you can see, Mongo comes from humongous. And the implementation of MongoDB is in C++. So it's an open database that can be used for lots of different applications by companies of all sizes across industries, wide number of applications used for this. And it's used a lot for internet, web-related things. NoSQL is the whole movement of going away from relational databases to support things like big data and frequent access to big data, and to get better performance and better scaling from databases. So here's a list of some of the features of MongoDB. And finally, some nomenclature for folks who are familiar with relational databases. If you know, for instance, for your MySQL that you're using a database, well, in MongoDB, you'll probably use a database as well. But a table, the corresponding thing in MongoDB, the closest thing that corresponds to that is a collection. And it's a collection of documents, not rows. And yes, they're indexes. There's the equivalent of join operations, and you have references that will allow you to get to things that are in other collections. And so this is just a picture showing kind of the hierarchy of, in relational over here on the right, you have database, which has tables, and the tables are composed of rows. In MongoDB, you have a database which has a number of collections, and each collection is composed of a bunch of documents. So let me turn it over to Mike at this point. Thank you.
So this is a list of who's using MongoDB. You can see some big names written there. There's a whole bunch. I just thought I'd put a few up there. All right, so what is a document, right? It's basically it's JSON, or more accurately, binary JSON. We'll talk about that in a bit. And it's an ordered set of fields with keys and associated values. Okay. All right, and BSON, that's the binary JSON. And it's designed to be lightweight and traversable and efficient. And I think oh, that's in the primary key. And then a collection is a group of documents. And we'll see all this as we do the demos and things like this. And as I mentioned before, MongoDB and the collection itself is schemaless, which I think is a cool thing. I chose, when I was still with Exxon, I created a polymers database because I was always asked, hey, Mike, do polymer X, do we have this various characterization data on it? And I'm like, maybe, without checking the lab notebook. So why not have a database that gives you all that? And the beauty of this is, yeah, polymer X may have infrared spectroscopy, may have mass spec. Polymer Y may have, NMR and other things, but you don't have that rigid schema where you have a lot of empty fields, right? So that was the main reason I chose that. I hope they're still using it, but I gave all that up, and it's theirs. So, but anyway, yeah. So that was the reason I chose that. And I'm going to click. I can't right now. Okay. All right, so what are the advantages? The last few minutes I've been, kind of praising MongoDB and everything else, right? So basically, because of the JSON, which can be consumed in any language or, any other kind of readers, your documents can correspond to your native data types. And embedded documents and array reduce the need for expensive joins, okay? Inner joins in a relational database, outer joins, all these other things. You can have embedded documents. I'll show you an example of that, which if you try to do a join in MongoDB, as I mentioned earlier, you can do that, but it's quite messy. And the results you get back, are hard to read. So, but this is used quite a bit and because of the flexibility. All right. All right, so here's a document structure. Okay. Now this is going back, I was hoping to have some extra time to come up with a new example, but the data still exists. And this was modeling the ACGNJ database that we had for all the officers and the directors at the time. And so that is just an example. So you have a key and a value, right? And then this is a embedded document. And I think I have there we go. All right, so here are the embedded document, and then, of course, this is the field, which is role, and all these others in yellow, and then the values of that itself. So it's real easy. I'm sure you've seen this. Maybe in some response from a website, you'll see JSON output. So it's used quite a bit. It's been around for a while. All right, the field names themselves are strings, but there are certain limitations. They cannot be null, right? You don't use the dot operator or the $sign, and you cannot have duplicate field names. All right, so in this presentation, I have some conventions that I use, right? The command prompt I use is a $sign, pretty generic. And then the MySQL prompt, because once you go into the MongoDB shell, you'll get something like that. And then you got your keywords in yellow and then variables in green. So. All right, so the example database, as I just mentioned, is the ACGNJ Board of Directors. Everybody familiar with ACGNJ? You should be, right? No? Amateur Computer Group of New Jersey? Started the year before the first TCF. So, what's that? Yes, that's right. Yeah. So, yeah, they're still going these days, right? So, but I think their meetings are all virtual now. So, but anyway, so this is the data I'm going to store. And then, so let's get started. Any questions at this point? I didn't do my, yes. Safer. So you think it's more like in terms of security? They are strings, right? No, it's binary. I'm sorry, it's binary, JSON, right? Yeah, that's an interesting question. But you were talking about pointers. There's no pointers, I don't think, yeah. So it is different from, so you're talking about a relational database? Okay. Yeah, these are different. And the whole idea about that is the flexibility. Now, I've heard like some, projects will use MongoDB or a NoSQL database of some kind to do real-time, updates. And then at the end of the day, they upload everything to a relational database. So I don't know if that's still true today, but that's something I heard that Twitter did back in the early days. So, but yeah, so it is different. Yes. I believe so. Yeah. That's, I need to double check that. So I should write these down. We have a pen here? Or is there anything here? Yeah, oh, here's a pencil. That works. Yep. You need to sheet of paper, Dennis, or one you gave me for?
Use this one.
Okay. All right. So cool. Yeah, I like to try to follow up when if there's a question that I can't answer. So you can download MongoDB. I think Homebrew is one of the package managers you can use. You can do it directly from the website. But you normally in the Linux world or the Mac OS, you will have a /data/db directory, and of course in Windows, :/data/db. And then you would create your first MongoDB database. All right, so we'll do these steps. I'll go through this real quick. You start an instance of the server, which I already have running, and that's the Mongo daemon or MongoD. And then you start the client, which is basically a shell, and that's just Mongo. And then you have a bunch of different commands, and so there's a help that gives you everything that is you can use on the command line. The list of databases, and I think it's in MySQL world, it's show databases, I think. But and then if you're not sure what database you're using, just type in DB and it tells you. All right, and then you'd use the use keyword and the database name to specify a database or create. So if you'd said use Fred as a database and Fred didn't exist, it creates it for you. So, and then if you have any data in there, that would be a collection. And then, so you do show collections, and that gives you all that. And then if you have users, then you can create those users and you can see them as well. And there's a system profile. You can show that. That's just all internal stuff, right? And then there's tab completion and command history, which is very useful. So first demo. All right. Rock and roll hoochie coo. All right, so in my terminal window here, I have down here, you can see that's small for a reason because we don't really need that. That's just the Mongo daemon running. All right. So here we would start Mongo. All right, and then you got the shell, right? So if you do show DBS, you guys can see that, right? Okay. So these are all the databases here, right? Have a beers database. That's one I've demonstrated quite a bit. And there's a polymers one. I have a Python project that does that. So while thinking about it, okay, who's fans of Python? Okay, you got a few. Who are fans of Java? Ooh, that's about even. Okay, cool. I should raise my hand for that. I did take a formal Python course, so I can't say I'm totally biased. So, but yeah, so here's what you do. So then if you do say use beers DB, right? Switch to DB, and then you can say DB, and that's what it is. Okay, then you say show collections. Okay, and then I have two collections, beer and brewer, and this is MongoDB Compass. So it's a graphical representation. So this is quite useful. And I already had it started. So you got the beer database. You can, see that here, but you can say db beer.find, right? And then it gives you all that. And then there's a dot pretty if it was messy, but I don't, oh yeah, so there you go. So it does a little different. So, but yeah, this is a useful tool. If you're going to use this, you can see it a little bit easier, that kind of thing. So let's see. All right, what else we got here? Oh yeah, there's the help. All right, so that's, gives you all that. And then, oh yeah, show collections. I did that one already. Oh, db.version. All right. So you'll see there is 4.0.0. I'm ashamed to admit I have not upgraded MongoDB on my own personal laptop. And, you know, when I thought about doing that, it's like that old cardinal rule that you do not upgrade anything before a demo. Okay, so, all right. So I'm sure a lot of us have gotten bitten by that over the years. All right, so yeah, so I just left it. But yeah, it is old. It was probably when I attended the MongoDB World in 2018 when I upgraded to 4. So it's quite a few years old. But anyway, so you have all these things. I don't think I have any users. So, right, yeah, that's empty list there. So there you have all that. And I started MongoD, you know, to get that part going with the daemon before the meeting started. So, all right. So let's see. Go back to here. Let me click OK on that. Okay. All right, the primary key. Well, I'll focus on it again later, but the ID or primary key is _ID, but you can have it automatically generated. It's a hexadecimal value, or you can give it a value if you like. If you see the explicit part right there, I said _ID #2 or whatever, you know, the one you want, or you can even use a string like you see there, right? So something, right? So that's pretty flexible. And the default type here, as you can see, is it's hexadecimal. Okay. Did I say that before? Yes, I did. Yeah. So you can see how it's generated there: the timestamp, the machine, process ID, and the increment. So that's how that's stored if you have it automatically generated for you. All right. So create. All right, so here I juxtapose the MySQL and the MongoDB. So those of you familiar with MySQL, anybody, any MySQL users? I still have some databases. Okay, awesome. So yeah, so you can see the difference. And then you said use database, as I mentioned earlier. If it doesn't exist, it'll create it for you. All right, a new table. So you use the collection name that you want. So if you saw, oh, yes, come on.
Typo. Is there a mode where it will inject that as an error?
A typo for?
As someone who's prone to typos, is there a strict mode or something like that where if you ask it to use a database that doesn't exist, it will tell you you're an idiot rather than just create it for you?
You know, that's an interesting, we could try that. Okay. So, you know, if you want to, I mean, I was testing earlier today and I just said test DB4 or test DB3, you know, so I don't think there's any kind of strict naming convention. I mean, if you go to try to use one and you type it in, then it's going to, you know, if there's an existing one you want to change. But yeah, I'll write that down. These are great questions, guys. Thank you.
Shells, if you use a variable that doesn't, it will insert, instead of doing the default of inserting an empty string, it will add error out.
Right, yeah. No, that's yeah. 4DB creation. Okay. And I'll send my answers to Dennis, you know, at some point in the next few days. So this is good stuff. Yeah. So here you can do the insert command here, the you know, collection. You saw me use find. There's the insert here. We'll do an example of this. And you can do more than one. And you can see the comma and the, you know, the most would be 3 dots. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. All right. So asserting a row. Oh, create table. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. All right. It's the same thing. So I think similarly, if you don't have a collection and you gave it a name, it'll create that as well. Now, interesting to your question, if you did, you know, you spelled, say, Fred, and you know, you do another insert to a typo like Fred, you know, Fred's, let's say example, it'll probably happily create another collection for you. But we can test that theory. So, all right. And then inserting a document is the same way. That's why I got confused there. So, which is not hard to do for me, by the way. So, and then here's a way you can insert multiple documents with an array. Now, I looked at this earlier today, or the last couple of days, getting myself freshened up on all this. I'm like, I don't think you can do this on the MongoDB command line. You got to store your I's and J's somewhere. So this is more for programmatically doing that. So I have examples in Java and in Python where you can do stuff like this. All right, demo time again. Yay, demo time. So, all right, so I just wanted to, there was a way you can do, using a JavaScript and a way to insert into MongoDB scripting using the different commands, but it's MongoSH, and I don't have MongoSH. I think that's a newer version. So there you go. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to use, so if you do show DBS, right? So you see test DB3. Let's do test DB4. So we're going to use test DB4. Okay, so it says switch to database test DB4. Now, if you go back in theory, you would think if you do show DBS, well, where the heck is test DB4? So you got to insert some data first before it actually shows it to you, which I think is kind of, I don't know if that's good, bad, or indifferent, but so let's do that. Let's, if you do, so we switch to 4, right? So DB, oops. All right, test DB4. All right, show collections should be empty. And there's nothing there. All right, so let's do db.beer.insert. All right, and we'll do name. Oops, that way. Got to be careful with all this. And, all right, you got to do that too. And then we'll call it Pumpkin. This is by Southern Tier Brewing out of upstate New York. This is a pumpkin beer, which I really like. So, all right, so it said here a right result, and inserted 1, okay? So now if you do show DBS, hey, there's test DB4. So, right? So, you got to be careful of that. So let's do another one real quick. Let's do, anybody familiar with Maine Brewing Company? Okay, am I the only beer nut here, I guess? Okay, so they make their lunch variety, which is an excellent IPA. Let's see, so, and then we'll do, all right, we'll do Mad Elf, which is a seasonal beer that's about 11.2%. Oh, I meant to add some other stuff. And then I think it's 11.2 or something like this. All right, so we inserted it, and then Guinness. Guinness is an excellent beer, and I spelled it wrong just now. And I just came from Ireland, so there's no excuse. So, and I think that's about 5. I'm just guessing right there. So I'm going to put 5.0 just to. All right. So if you do db dot, what was it called? Beer. Okay, so you see the tab completion there? And then find, as you saw earlier, you see the 4 there. Now, so there's the primary key, right? The hexadecimal number. All right, and then the name. Now you see here, you're not tied to a rigid schema. You don't have to have an ABV column that has to be empty. All right, so that's just a small example of how you can do that. Yes?
What's the floating point precision on those alcohol values?
Yeah, so you see that it converted it to an int. All right.
It says 11.2.
No, I put 5.0.
Oh,
but it truncated it. So the answer is I don't know. I looked at FP precision. This is good stuff, guys. Thank you. Yeah, so you can see yeah, I'm sure that's got to be there somewhere. The different data types. There's a lot of implicit conversion between ints and floats. you know, in a lot of these programming languages like C and Java and all that, right? So I don't know, to be honest. Yeah, so that's how you get started with that, right? We'll do some more fine stuff. I'm going to launch the ACGNJ database as well, so we'll talk about that. Yeah, I think we're done with that for now. All right, go back. All right, so read. All right, so you saw me use this a few times already, right? db collection.find. But there's variations. You can do things like, you know, field and value, you know, those kinds of things. So it's very flexible. And then you can retrieve specific fields in MongoDB, like you can see there. So this is the find command. And I forget why that empty set of braces is there. That's required though. But so you see how this gets hairy? We haven't seen anything yet. So, and then retrieving specific documents. All right, you can use the find command with the field and value. So if you have, you know, you can do db.beer.find and just try to, you know, bring out the just one of the varieties of beer that we just put in there. All right, and then you can sort. I can show you that in a minute too. So you basically, it's you know, kind of wrapped kind of silly there. So yeah, and then let's see. Query for multiple documents returns a cursor. Okay, yeah. There is a find one, and I've, in my experience, it's been the first one you enter, but there's other ways you can use the find one as well. We'll get into that. You have query selectors here. So these, so you can understand why you don't need the $sign, or you can't use a $sign in the language because these are reserved for these, you know, scalar values. So any is not equal, right? You can do the modulus operator, you know, if something exists and so on. GTE is greater than or equal, and things like that. So, and then you can do some vector manipulation as well. All right, and then so here's an example of how you use the scalar right here. All right, you want to find a field, and then if it's not equal to a certain value, or you can do greater than or equal, you know, things like this. All right, and let's see. Retrieve specific documents. Oh, here's the OR. So yeah, so you can use the OR operator here on this one. All right. So here you can see things get a little more messy. All right. I know despite that, this is a very powerful database, right? Just a matter of getting used to that. And, you know, the aggregate function is used mainly for, you know, for things like, well, to do a inner join, as you know, inner join. And you can do that. So we'll look at that. Let's see. All right, so, and let's see. So other various things you can say, okay, give me all the directors from the ACGNJ database. And I didn't show it yet. So, and then give me, you know, who's the historian in ACGNJ and who writes the newsletter, you know, things like this. So this is, you know, very flexible, but again, you got to mind your braces and your parens and your brackets in certain cases. So yeah, you can see it right here. So what was the one here? This one. Oh, where was that? One of these, there was I thought there was an extraneous quote. Yeah, but unfortunately it didn't work. So, all right, so let's see what we can do here. We did some of these queryings already, right? Oops, I want to go here. All right. Let's use ACGNJ. Okay, and then show collections. I think there's only one collection is the members, right? So db dot members dot find and dot pretty. That'll give us everything here. And then you can do a count And you can see there's 19 entries. So there's 19, JSON entries right here. And you can see here's how they're separated with their curly braces. All right. So this was Matt Skoda, who did the layman's forum, back in the day, right? And, and Andy Meyer, right? So you have all these in here, and there's 19 of them. So let's see. I think I was going to copy and paste from here. All right. That was the easiest way to do it. So let's. Okay, so you can see this is the one where you aggregate and you want to, who has officer role. So you have your standard, we had a standard, set of officers here, president, vice president, and so on. And that was them, so you can find that there. What was the other part of the schema there? Let's see, we'll do another one. Oh, this is the one. Oh, yeah, okay, you can do, all right, it was later on. It was, let's see, greater than date. I don't think I control-C'd that. Okay. All right, so there you go. So give me everything greater than, December 31st, 2014. So you had a few in there, and you can probably do .count, and you got 5. All right. So these are the kinds of things you can do. There were some neat ones here. I wonder if that was, we'll get to that at some point. There was a way you can assign variables. So I created a variable of my last name and then find one, and then you can use that to do some other stuff. I know that's in here somewhere. But you get the idea, right? How you can do that.
That's for the two-date comparison.
There, I'm sorry.
Are the example where you had, you were comparing to dates, are they done with real dates, or is it just a text comparison
It's
of the
a
date
function
string?
called isodate.
Oh, okay.
So
So it is a real date. Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and you're supposed to have the,
Because your dates were organized so that they would have worked in either way.
right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, so that's, it is a pretty good thing. So it had it like, I think in here, you can see the ISO date, and it had the, the year, month, day, and then the time, so, yeah. So that's Z. I'm not quite sure what that means. That, what's that?
Zulu.
Time zone. Okay, Zulu that's UTC. Right, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I know that Zulu was always Greenwich Mean Time, but all the other time zones have a NATO, I forgot where we are in the Eastern time zone, but that was kind of cool. So, all right. Yeah.
So is there any graphical user interface that you can use to input all your stuff into this?
You can do some of this in here. You can do your find. So in this case, we're in the beer thing, so you can do name. Whoops. Oh yeah, that's right. If you can do it this way, I haven't done this in a while. And then let's see, lunch. Find. So you can do some of that in here. Yeah. Yeah.
Put in curly brackets,
Yeah.
colons, and quotation marks. I just want to type them into the boxes, and then it'll generate this code.
Oh, right. Yeah. No, I didn't type in the curly braces. I think it inserted them for me, but I did have to insert the colon.
If
Yeah.
you said name, and then you said name and just colon and then lunch, and it propagated the
It
rest
found
of
it. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
that's good. That's
But I don't know how
what-
comprehensive this really is. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's too bad.
but it is, because that is really nice. You can see all the,
Okay,
yeah.
so they're, all right.
So, and then, like I said,
And
you
that
can
was
see
with
all
the
the,
Mongo.
so you
Where
can
you get
see,
that.
oh, that's admin. Here's ACGNJ. You can see everybody in here. Oh, in the beer database, I did use regular integers, you know, so. But that was because I have so here's a brewer collection, right? Which basically just has the name of the brewer, city and state. And then the beer collection, there's a brewer ID. And that corresponds to the brewer collection. So this was my attempt at doing that. Yeah. So to normalize, yeah. Because, I mean, we're all RDBMS at heart, right? I mean, this is how we all grew up, So, but yeah, so that's it. This is a nice tool. I like it. I don't think I've updated this in a while. So, but again, you can this is free, so MongoDB Compass. Yeah. Yeah. Now there was I meant to mention earlier at the beginning, MongoDB was, the company was named 10gen first. And I think there was something with that name out there for a GUI as well. So, but I'd have to double check that, so.
We do have a question
Oh, from Zoom.
from the Zoom. What is
From-
the best way to import export from plain text documents?
So yes, I have slides on that and how to, how you can import data from JSON files
Yeah.
and export them out as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
And I think you can do CSV. But yeah.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Yes, that is a nice feature actually, especially if you want to back things up quickly. Okay, we did that. All right, update. All right. All right, so here's where you can do an update here. There's an update command, that's right, the collection would be whatever the name of the collection is. This is where you would say the ID, if you know it's ID number 1. I mean, so in MySQL, right, the same thing is the where clause where ID equals whatever number. And then you can do a set command here or the operator and change it that way. Very nice. Oh yeah, here's the where. Yeah, that's right. So updating a document, very similar. In this case, field 1, if it's greater than a certain value, you can set, field 2 in the value. And then I think it's multi-true has to do if there's multiple entries, then it will allow that. All right, so here's the one here I liked. So here I assign a variable. You can call it whatever, right? So, and then db.members find one, last name, right? And then you can get the roles from that and then do an update if I want it. So that's just another way of, of finding it. You can use the find one with parameters like you see here. And earlier we just had it with no, with no parameters in there. Yeah.
That roles field.
Yes, that's, let's see. Oh, yeah, yeah, here we go. Yes, I should have maybe focused on that a little bit more. Yeah, so this is the name of the field, but it's an embedded document. So you just have another set of curly braces with the keys and values. Yeah, yep. So you can see how this gets messy, right? So
We're not in table land anymore.
no, we're in collection. All right.
Good question.
Where were we? Update, right? Okay.
Mhm.
We did all this already? Okay, update, yeah. We went to here and here. Okay, and that one. And then, oh, these are the scalars, the different operators you can do here. You can do your stack, I've not tested these, by the way. We're push and pop like a stack and those kinds of things, adding to a set. So this is vector operations, right? Increment, set, as we saw, and then unset. Let's see, some more updates here. Oh yeah, this is where I found the extraneous quote here. I think that's wrong. And I spent some time this afternoon trying to get this to work and to change the date. And of course, this is how long ago, I had these slides. But yeah, you can do the update that way. And then delete, basically, it's just using the remove function with the collection, right? You can just wipe it all out if you want. Okay, just be very careful, of course, as I deleting anything. And the same thing, you can delete specific rows or documents in this case. All right. Oh yeah, and then dropping a database, you can just use the drop database function that you see down here. All right, and make sure you have that one. That's why they use it right there. So, all right, backup and restore. I think this has to do with the question a few minutes ago. This is, yeah, on the so you have to have the daemon running, of course, and this is on the command line. So you're out of the shell itself, and you can do Mongo export, and then all these flags right here, database name, the collection name, if you want, just for a certain collection, and then a path, and then you want in JSON format. And then, let's see, same thing, export. So you can export to a CSV file if you'd like. All right, same thing. This is on the command line. And then you can see you need the dash CSV. And then that should say CSV. So copy and paste is evil. I think that's an anti-pattern I read years ago. So I should change that.
Question?
Yeah.
If MongoDB holds BSON data and you export it to JSON, and BSON has more data types than JSON, how does it store that as JSON?
So well, the short answer is I don't know, but I guess I think it converts into binary format.
So doesn't BSON have like byte fields and things like that? So I would be curious, maybe it escapes.
Yeah, I'd
it or
have to look
something.
at the spec on that.
Okay.
There is a reference. Yeah, no, thank you. So it's good question. Thank you. You guys are keeping me totally honest here. But yeah, I think that should say CSV, right? So. Okay. It's amazing how many errors you find on your slides while you're giving the presentation, right? So, okay, so, oh, here's the import right here, right? Same thing, right? Mongo import. All right, and then you can do a data dump if you'd like. Same kind of thing right there. And then in this case, you want to make sure MongoDB is not running, and you do the data dump on that. All right, all right. So I wanted to show you guys, and we have a few minutes to do a couple of Python and Java examples. You can see some of this. Okay, cool. I'm glad you.
We definitely want to see that.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to do the
Program.
Python first because it seems to be the language of choice of especially for AI and machine learning applications. Java's getting there. Java's getting there. All right. So here's the Polymers database. Now this is not the Polymers, application. And I had a GUI front end for that and all that, and that I left with Exxon. This was like my initial, experimenting with how to run this stuff. So here's our app.python. A little bit bigger. There we go. All right. So let's see. So you need the PyMongo package, right? So from Mongo client. So, and then, yeah, inventory, db.inventory. Okay, the inventory must be the collection. Need to refamiliarize myself with that. Where's Polymers? Here you are. Oh yeah, so I had inventory. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So here's this one real quick, right? These are polyethylene. I'm sorry, polymer classes, polyethylene, polypropylene, polybutadiene, all those fun polymers. All right. Okay, so so here's a for loop where you make the connection, right? So client.polymers, that's how you make the connection to that database, right? So very simple, right? You know, not a lot of overhead. Well, you don't have to write a lot of code to do that. So here you can do you create a small variable, and then for inventory in inventory.find, all right, then print the inventory. And the same thing with the number of vendors. And then you can do a new entry. And this is how you would do that. You would actually, use the ID and the name and the value on that. So you can see that there. Midas number was something internal, for the chemical database we had at work there, and those kinds of things. Okay. All right. So if we run this and let's see, start a new terminal window. Okay. So basically here's, just everything you saw on the PyCharm GUI right there. So it's Python and then app py, and then boom, came out real fast, as you can see. Move this out of the way. There you go. All right. So you can see everything that was printed out. So real simple, right? This is just gives you a flavor for, how you can do that kind of thing. All right. So that's using Python. What I had was obviously a little more involved in, doing, and that's where I was trying to do some kind of normalization. Like I said, I can do it on the command line, but I wasn't able to do it programmatically for whatever reason. It was, it was a couple of years ago. So we go into the Java world. If anybody's interested, Jakarta EE11 is on the verge of being fully released. The core profile was released in December, and the web profile was just released earlier this month. So we're waiting on the platform. But I have a Jakarta EE GitHub repository, and it has as you'll see in a minute, each of the folders represent a specification once it loads everything. Too many resources going here. So you can see I have Jakarta concurrency, Jakarta data, which is a new spec. JWT Bridge is a whole collaboration between microprofile JWT auth and Jakarta security. And then here's NoSQL. The data is a web app essentially. But I can show you that, but there can be an idea for some of the source code here. So still using MongoDB, and the way you connect, where is that? Oh wait, it's under resources, yes. Okay, I'm using microprofile config to do that. And what you do is right here. All right, this is how you make that connection in microprofile config. And so here, there's a lot. I mean, we're not going to go through all these, right? So you have you guys know what a POJO is, or a plain old Java object? It's basically a standard. It has your attributes, and your methods are set attribute name, get attribute name. Those, it's basically a standard on how to do that. So, so we have all that here. This corresponds to the beer database I showed you a few minutes ago. And you have all these different things to create your endpoints and those kinds of things. So that's all involved in this, right? All right. Yeah. So you inject your services, right? And then you can go from there. So let's run that. So, okay. Number 3. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Clean package. Now watch it not work, even though I. And I have a script to start Payara micro. Now, of course, the demo guys, let's hope they're, so far they've been pretty good, right? Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm building the application, creating what's called a WAR file, right, a web archive, and then I'm deploying it to Payara micro. So this takes a few seconds.
While you're doing that, can I ask a question?
Sure.
So is what we were looking at before when you were annotating the classes,
Mm.
are they going to persist into the database automatically through the annotation
Yes,
specification?
Jakarta Data has new annotations, insert, save, I think delete, and there's one more.
And they'll persist
but-
into a MongoDB database?
Yes, because I
Is
told it that. So Jakarta Data is basically sort of a, overall, handling both Jakarta NoSQL and Jakarta persistence.
Okay, so like the JPA spec?
Yes, right.
Okay.
So JPA, I consider the before Jakarta, Java persistence architecture. Yeah, but everybody uses that. Yeah,
Yeah. Is it similar to Hibernate?
yes, Hibernate's one of the implementations. Eclipse Link might be the other. Yeah. So, yeah, so Hibernate's been a long time implementer of Jakarta persistence. So, and there's a couple others that they do. Oh, Hibernate Validator is for the B validation spec, which is just called validation now. So, what do you got here? Yes. So yeah. So, and there's also annotations for ID and entity and columns. So a lot of great things you can do there. Yeah. So if we run this, all right, I need my glasses on here. Oh yeah, let me get the. So on a successful deployment, you'll see the endpoints listed here. So you can see there's a bunch, right? You got most of these are the get verbs. There is the post to actually, do some, adding stuff on there. And then here's the URL, which, by the way, if you use localhost on that, it works too. This thing is in my way here. Okay. All right. You can make this bigger too. Okay, so all these demos have this splash page here, all right? And then I have the whatever endpoints are for this. And then, this is just some generic, okay, not too exciting, welcome, blah, 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 right? And then here is the data/beer endpoint, right? So you'll see now in JSON format, because it's, you'll see all the beers. And then you can say, okay, what's the third one, please? And that'll give it to you, right? Same thing with brewer. Okay, you got the brewers, and then, what's the fourth brewer, right? So actually, what does it do if you have it, let's say 50? Okay, good. That's what it should do. So it should do it more gracefully, but, I guess you can build that in yourself. Now to add a beer, we're going to do that. Let's see. Let's put it up there. And we have 14 at the moment. Okay, I have a script. It'll probably duplicate what I have here, but.
Is that RESTful interface part of the spec?
So RESTful Web Services is part of RESTful, the RESTful Web Services spec.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
see.
So that's been around a while too. Yeah. A lot of these specs, you can use them together. So. Yeah, I think it's, especially for microservices, and, you can start different microservices on different terminal windows and, that kind of thing. So here is where I'm going to use the curl command so you see here the Redlich Brewing Company, which is something I'd like to do in retirement, but, I keep threatening my wife that we'll open our own brewery, but somehow I don't think that's going to ever happen. So yeah, of course I can dream about it and display it here, right? So, yeah, well, let's Atlanta. Yeah, this was something. So this is how you would do this, right? Curl the post, right? And then the content type is JSON, right? And then you put in everything here. And then you should change this is where I flubbed when I gave this in Atlanta. So if I do 16, let's see. And let's see if there's an Atlanta, New Jersey. There you go. I want to make this unique so I can see the change. Now let's see. We're in Ewing, right? There you go.
Yeah.
All right,
Ewing.
Ewing. All right,
Brewing,
cool.
yeah.
Ewing,
Ewing Brewery.
oh, that's funny. Okay, yes, yeah. So, oh, that is funny. All right, so we'll do it in 16. Let's run this, okay? Oh, I have to now start another terminal window. I just realized. Because Payara Micro is running in this one up here. So. All right. All right, so we do /add. Okay, and it's apparently did it. It says 15 here, and I put 16, so God knows what we got. I may have overwritten something. Did I do beer or brewer? I did brewer.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get that straight, Mike.
There it is.
Okay. Yep. I may have overwritten something, but yeah. So, but yeah, but you get the idea how to do that, and you can delete as well. Delete, you can right here. You know, you basically use the delete verb and then you know, the ID. So, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a bit involved here. The NoSQL version, and this is available on GitHub if you want to experiment with this stuff. And I always encourage people to experiment. If you find something wrong, send me an email, slap me around and say, hey, you know, right? So, but yeah, it's, this is set for Jakarta EE11, even though it might be milestone 4, but
It's preview in 11?
it is, well, actually there's a release candidate 1. And then, you know, that's what I have. I have milestone 4 at the moment. So, but yeah, it's the whole thing is there's the Jakarta E, there's the platform, which is 30 specs out of the 43 now, because a new one for Jakarta EE12. And then there's the web profile, including a number of specs for, you know, for web applications. And there's a core profile for just basic sort of runtime type things. And so you can, anything in the core profile, you can use version 11 GA, you know, so I do have a presentation on that that's online that you can, if you're interested in learning more about that. So, yeah, so, but this one here is a little bit, it's a command line. It's less classes that you see here. You know, I even have oh, so here is let's see. So here's the entity annotation, the ID. One of the things I like about this is with the column annotation, and I think this is only relative to NoSQL. I tried this in persistence and it didn't work. You know, usually for a Java app, right, it's the variable name is lowercase, so brewer ID would be lowercase b and then uppercase I. But in I think the database, it's brewer underscore ID. You can wire them together in the column annotation by saying, you know, by specifying that. So now this wires together, and then you can keep things, you know, the way they should be, for lack of a better word, right? So yeah, you see brewer ID in here like this, camel case, and then brewer underscore, I think that's called snake case or something like this, you know. So yeah, but so again, you know, you can take a look at these things. This is a command line app, so you'll just get stuff from the database printed out on the command line. Questions on any of that before we basically wrap up? I know it's getting kind of late.
Yeah, questions.
And then we'll wrap it up.
I had a question.
Sure.
Now, of course, this is all interpreted.
Yes.
Like SQL, is
Yes.
interpreted.
Yes, this is interpreted. Java is interpreted, Python is interpreted, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Is there any idea of what we have in some of the commercial and open source SQL relational databases of stored procedure, where they do some optimization and
Yes,
they
there-
can basically compile stuff and make the queries run much faster?
Much quicker, yes. I think you can do that in persistence with no SQL, I'm not sure. So stored procedures, okay.
Okay,
You guys are gonna keep me busy for the next few days.
yeah. My suspicion is no, but
Yeah, off the top of my head, I know there's some indexing and things like that, but that's a lot different from stored procedures and things like that, so.
Yep. Okay.
Good stuff. All right, so there's some package components here. There's, MongoD, Mongo S, this is for sharding. And then of course, Mongo. And then here's some of the stuff that that I showed earlier. There's where's Mark? So yeah, Beeson dump. So that could be, converting from one to the other. So I think that partially answers your question. Yeah. So I forgot about that one. And then of course, you can do your imports, all these other things, diagnostic tools, so it's pretty powerful stuff. The grid file system, I think it's this is a storage system. I'm not quite sure if that's related to what you're asking before. I'd have to look that up again. And then some resources. These are a number of books that have been out. I don't know if there's anything newer, but these, you can see that there's been a number of books written on this topic over the years. So you could take a look at that. And then resources here, the website documentation, all these other things. The Beeson spec, there is a whole web page dedicated to that. And, oh yeah, this should have been moved elsewhere. Everybody know who this is, right? I think most people in this room knows who this is. How about you younger folks? You know who that is? Oh my God. You're killing me here. It's the great Rodney Dangerfield. His real name was Roy Cohn, I think, right? Or something like that, or yeah, I forget. Just watch the movie Easy Money, Back to School, and Caddyshack, all right? So yeah. Yes. This was from, oh my God. Okay. I like this slide. Okay, just to, so we talked about open source at dinner tonight, right? And this was from Tanya Obradovich from the Eclipse Foundation, and she gave a presentation not too long ago, and she had the acronym SEED, to share, embrace, engage, and develop. And in this case, I should have put share your own MongoDB experiences. One thing about open source is there seems to be a misconception that you only have to contribute code. That's not true. The spec leads and the contributors, they appreciate things like fixes to shell scripts, which I did once, and also documentation. If you look at the documentation, see something wrong, whether it's grammatical or, or spelling errors, those kinds of things, you can do that. All right, that's the beauty of open source. It's everybody working together. So I thought this was a pretty cool slide, and so yeah, and I know Tanya. She's I work with her quite a bit on a lot of the Jakarta EE stuff.
It's
and that's from another, yeah.
Open source is one area where people who want to get involved, if you're introverts, you can do it without meeting another single person.
This is true.
And if you're extroverts, you can beer it up all you like.
Yeah. Now, I just want to say a few words about the Java community, and it's just an awesome set of people. You talk about, I was at DevNexus and Java 1 last month, and I've known some of these folks for a number of years, and then I've met some folks that I've either, in person for the first time because I've interacted with them via email or with Zoom, and it's just a tight-knit community, I think. Everybody works together real well. I don't know if some of the other communities can say that, but I know I'm just happy to be part of that. So, But yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, it's my email. I still have a Twitter account for the moment. And by the way, I'll never call it X. That's my main website. I have a portfolio page. The website is a bit outdated. I'm working on a new one. So it could be a little more modern, but at least the stuff is there. And then my GitHub repository, I have a number of examples, things that you can peruse. The one that I showed you is Jakarta EE11. Might be a dash in there somewhere, but you'll see it. So yeah, and we'll conclude with some nice pints of beer and chocolate. So this was an AI generated image. And if you know, anybody knows Barry Bird? I know you know Barry Bird. Yeah. He is a big chocolate, right? That's right. You did. Yes. Yeah. And so, I'm a craft beer enthusiast. I learned how to properly pour a Guinness in Ireland last week. So that was a highlight of that trip. But yeah, so he generated that image with the AI. But yeah, so good stuff. But yeah, no, first of all, thank you for coming out. I appreciate the support, having Dennis and asking me to come, visit with you guys tonight. Thank you for everybody out on Zoom or television land, as Ed Norton would say. And okay, who knows Ed Norton? Oh man. All right, honeymooners, watch the reruns. You'll die laughing. All right.
I do have one more question.
Yes.
And this is from online here, and Neil almost wanted to know, when you showed the list of databases, it looked like you had one database that only had like one record in or one document in it. And it showed up as 0.078 GB.
Oh, that's just, I think, the amount of storage it takes to, yes, I think I noticed that. I think that's the storage it needs or requires, or that's how much it's using.
For the smallest database
Yeah,
is going to be 78 megabytes.
Is it megabyte? That's a good question. All right, storage.
All right, we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It may be just misreporting, but it
it
may
could be,
actually,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
it may be
So,
actually saying, oh, I'll
Where-
allocate more space.
where-
There may be more to come.
where was that?
It was early on when you were showing the listing of.
Okay, all right, I'll try to find that for
Yeah.
sure. So, but yeah, so again, thanks again. Everybody safe travels home, wherever you live here, and we'll, I guess we'll see you next time.
All
So
right.
our next Java meeting is May 13th at Drew University. We have, yeah. Yes, yeah, so Barry and I are both co-directors along with two other guys. So, yeah, we were part of ACGNJ once, but that was a long story. We're on our own. And yeah, we're a nonprofit and we rebranded. So, but yeah, May 13th, we have Phil Chung to talk about AI and RAG, which I keep forgetting what the R stands for. So that's it. I was going to say that next, but yeah, again, thanks a bunch and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks, Mike. When we get information from you, Mike, I'm
Yes.
gonna put it up on the our website here,
Okay.
which is
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for all the questions. That was good
Yeah.
stuff. Oh, and I'll put I meant to do that. I ran out of time, but I have a portfolio page and these slides I'll update.
Yeah.
I'll put them up there tomorrow. If you go there now, it's an older version. So
okay. You'll give
So-
me that information, and if you go to the main page on PrincetonACM.acm.org, it's under downloads.
okay.